Corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It's one baby. Playing a high drive into left. Back goes to Craig. He's at the track. He has it. The former world champion for 2011. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it, go to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
Silent majesty of a winter's morn, the clean, cool chill of the holiday air, an asshole in his bathrobe emptying a chemical toilet into my sewer.
Shitter was full!
Ah, yeah. You checked our shitters, honey?
Clark, please.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Kiss my ass. Kiss his ass. Kiss your ass. Happy Hanukkah.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the show, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah. This is Team of Rivals podcast coming up right before the holiday season, and so happy to be here. It's been a heated week in baseball, and a lot of it centers around the Miami Marlins, Bob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, the owner, Derek Jeter. But a little bit of heat developed over the last 24 hours over an article that was posted by a guy from CBS about players that are overrated. And so we're going to get into that too. But before I get into any of that, let's talk to our other two co-hosts here. Pete.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing really good. Really good. I've calmed down. My wife wasn't feeling good earlier, so I had to take care of the boys tonight and make sure that they got to bed. And that's always stressful. It's stressful, but if you're mad about something and you have to deal with that, by the time you're done with it, you're like, it's a big exhale, and mostly all the frustrations before that just kind of evaporate. Actually, I think they get masked by the frustrations of getting a 4-year-old to brush his teeth voluntarily. Elliott, if you don't know that yet, you're about to find out. Another thing, guys, I learned before we get into anything else, Twitter is a thing that I've heard about before that can get people fired up and get people angry, and it's just a breeding ground for basically. I think of Twitter as like, have you ever seen the movie Surrogate, where the people aren't really living out in the real world? They're having like their minds like in a robot, and they're doing things that they wouldn't normally do. They look like they don't look like. That really is what Twitter is, isn't it? It's kind of like the movie Surrogate. Evidently, I just learned that over the last 24 hours. I've been letting my co-host handle that, and I've learned the hard lesson where I probably should just stay off of it. I'm not built for that kind of thing. But anyway, here we are. And Elliott, so you're with the family tonight. We hear everybody celebrating there in the background, which is cool. This is this time of year. We expect it.
It's only part of the family. Yeah, we're down in Illinois, and going to spend the next 4 days with the parents and cousins and aunts and uncles and brothers and kids and nieces and nephews and everything. So it's gonna be a real hoot nanny.
You look far more distinguished tonight, Elliott, than you have in the previous.
I had to leave the confines of my home office today and actually go see clients.
You clean up pretty well.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? He looks pretty dapper. He looks like he's he's on top of things, and
we all know that's just a front.
Yeah,
it's a front.
Yeah.
It's a front.
Sweatpants are going to go on here after the show, so
it's a front. All right, guys. So let's.
Wait, you're wearing pants?
It's a first.
I was
the show. All right, guys. Without further delay, because I know we got Elliott with his family here, so let's just get right into the first thing that obviously I was pissing and moaning about earlier. So there was an article, and it's on CBS. It's about MLB. The writer is, hang on just a second.
And I read something that said he was his first actual post or first actual article that he's written.
Right, and he's got a lot of
Way
disclaimers.
to come out of the box.
Right.
Yeah, no kidding. And the title of this article is "The All Overrated MLB Team: Eric Hosmer, Evan Longoria, Albert Pujols lead the way." So he does, and I give him a little bit of credit here. He does throw out a lot of disclaimers before he gets into this about why he put this list together the way he did. Don't come at me. Well, which is kind of stupid to begin with, because if you're going to throw out player names to fan bases that are passionate about the teams, you're gonna no matter how logical your argument is, you're gonna get some shots thrown at you. So but he expects it, right? So he clearly said that. So I'll give him some points for that. In his argument, though, the first on the list is catcher Yadi Molina. And, I'm not going to get into the whole article. I'm going to give a couple things here that he said. And he said, of course, I'm not saying by these guys being overrated, that doesn't mean I'm saying that they're bad. By their fan base. And he's strictly talking about 2017 and 2018 guys. He's not talking about the past. He's talking about are they overrated now and then going forward in the next year? So, okay. He's really he set some guardrails here for what he's discussing. Fine. Fair enough. That was probably a smart thing to do. But the thing is that he's got a couple statements in here that are really just looking at it. I'm like, wow, these are just wrong. So I'm going to look at one here, and I had it queued up. Basically the gist of this is, he's not as good as he used to be. Right. His numbers have trailed off. He's not as good a defender as he once was in his prime. He's not hitting as well as he was in his prime. Understandable. He's 35 and he acknowledges this. But he has a line on here that says, "I'm sure it's his teammates' fault now. But back in his prime, how was Molina making all his teammates better, and now he's not? What happened?" This is where this gets really stupid right here. And let me tell you why. There's my logic for this. Let's go back a little bit there, genius, because in 2004, when he broke into the league, Pete, who was the core of the Cardinals team at that point in time?
2004? I don't remember.
Okay, so fine. You had Pujols.
It was
Roland,
right. Yeah, Pujols, Edmonds, right?
You had Chris Carpenter. I mean, come on now. And then you had that core intact for at least until 2007. It started to break up a little bit, but you still had Albert there up to 2011. Then after he left, you had Beltran in the middle of that lineup. You still had Chris Carpenter there the entire time, practically. So, of course, it has something to do with the team that's around him. It has to do with the pitching staff that they field now versus the pitching staff that they had in years prior. Of course, the Cardinals' record reflects that they were better than. Now, no Cardinal, no sane Cardinal fan thinks that's Molina's doing, right? Nobody thinks that the success they had in that period of time was all on Yadi, and now it's his fault now that the pitching staff they have today, the lineup they have around him today, is like he can't make them better. We never expected Yadi to make a lineup better ever. None of us did, ever.
He makes those pitches look better, though. His pitch framing is still out of this world.
And I don't have it in front of me, guys, and I don't have time to search this on the fly while we're sitting here. But I would almost guarantee you that when he's been on a couple of DL stints, now he hasn't over the last couple of years. He's caught damn near every inning, right? But I guarantee you on years he's been injured, and he hasn't been there. I guarantee you the record's better when he's in there. Now, it's not skill alone. I think it's just his knowledge of the league and how he handles pitching staffs. But let me go back to the point I was making. I think that no sane Cardinal fans, guys, can we agree to rule out the pockets of zealots that all of our fan bases have? We all have idiots, right? Their own. We love them. They're all our own idiots. But and these guys will exist online all day and refresh their shit and see if somebody says something they don't like and then just fire shots at them. Fine. We all know that exists. I've learned that. Hard way.
They're called trolls.
They are.
That's why we've started a hashtag on our own. Hashtag trolling Ron.
That's right.
Fair enough. I probably have deserved that one.
So that's what you need to be aware of. Just look for that hashtag. If you see it, then yes.
I've already seen it a few times.
We retweeted it or tweeted it or whatever specifically to get under your skin.
Well, here's the thing. And I've learned the hard way. But anyway, seriously though, you've got level-headed fans. None of us think that Yadi is as good as he was 5 years ago or 6 years ago. We don't. And I know, and I can't speak for every Cardinal fan. I certainly don't represent the fan base here, but I think I'm a pretty, I look at my team with skepticism going into next year. I know there's things they need to do, but I also know that Yadi's not an elite player anymore. I know that because of his reputation, he's been able to hold off the running game. Maybe there's some teams or runners that won't run on him as much as they would maybe other catchers in the league, but eventually that's going to catch up with age. So I know he's not an elite player. To say he's overrated in 2017, I think is rather foolish. So I really think our fan base, we're loyal to him because he's been with us for so long. We're loyal to him because,
but see, that's exactly the point, right? You're loyal to a player based on his past, and what he is saying is it's not deserved based on current performance. And granted, this is his first article out of the box, right? And I was thinking about this ever since we first talked about this in our texts. Last year, you very fairly could have said that Kyle Schwarber was one of the most overrated players in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Based on, and again, based on fan reaction, right? And that had nothing to do with his career. That had nothing to do with, it was all based on reputation, right? What he had done in essentially a handful of games over the course of the previous 2 seasons. So coming into last year, he absolutely was one of the most overrated players in baseball. And I don't think that you would have gotten a rational Cubs fan to disagree with that assessment.
Right.
But I also think that they might have been defensive in the same way that you were saying, oh, but I'm rational. Nobody really thinks that, but there are people who do think that. And while he may have said that he was only talking about the fans, you're also talking about the media, because fans don't react this way unless the media is feeding it. And the media still does treat Yadi Molina like he's one of the top 3 or 4 catchers in baseball, and he's not anymore.
No, and I know he's not. But the thing is like, if you're talking about, again, Pete, if you're talking about now, next year, I don't know that much of, maybe, I don't know. I don't keep score of what the media actually says about the guy or during broadcasts or games, but I just don't pick that up. And I watch a lot of Cardinal broadcasts. And do they still hold him in high regard? They do. But I think we all know that there are catchers in the league that their youth and then they're in their prime and they are physically able to do more than he is at this point in time. We all know that. So to see him on a list like that is like, here's the thing, Pete. It's not that I don't disagree with the notion. If he was indeed overrated, I think it's mostly media related. And I would agree with that. He doesn't intimidate people as much as he once did. But at the same time, there are still catchers out there that aren't as good at catchers at the plate and behind the plate as he is. So to kind of,
well, that's always going to be the case, with an elite player at any position. Once they fall from that, they're still going to be better than probably the majority of the other players at that position and I think this writer does at least acknowledge that.
Another piece of credit is that he
is still absolutely a top half catcher, but he's no longer top 4.
So what I feel this writer
totally agree.
Now, here's what I would say. The one that I would actually go ahead, Elliott.
My stuff kind of froze. So I think what Ron was kind of alluding to is that you can still hold a player in high regard, even though that his talent has decreased because of age and wear and tear and everything like that. It's not say he's overrated. Holding someone in high regard and being overrated, I feel like, are 2 different things. And I think you kind of hit the head on the button when you kind of gave the Kyle Schwarber comparison. Yes, he was overrated because he was, this was based off of a small sample size compared to the large sample size in the career of Yadi Molina. And I can't believe I'm saying that about him.
I will say this. My problem with the article is that he included Albert Pujols as one of the most overrated players in baseball.
And nobody overrates him.
Nobody overrates him.
Yeah, you took it from me because I was going there. And I know I didn't mention it before we went on here.
The only possible way that you can overrate him is if you only look at his big 3 stats, right? You look at
runs.
He still hit he hit what, like 260. He hit 30 plus home runs and he had over 100 RBIs. If that's all you're looking at, yeah, he's still getting it done. but he was barely a replacement level player last year. It was only because of his position in that lineup and everybody else around him that he was able to compile those stats. And nobody is arguing that Albert Pujols is still anything close to what he used to be when he was with the Cardinals.
No. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And I texted you guys earlier. I said, this is a hole in this guy's articles. There's some holes in this guy's article. And that was definitely one of them, Pete, when I saw that. I'm like, he even bring his name in here. He's like, come on, how can you think anybody is overrating him these days? Yes, there'll be people that talk about him that acknowledge what he did in his first 11 or 12 years. They'll say, he was great once. But, I mean, anybody who's talking about him on the radio or on TV, they're like, of course they're going to say he's a shell of himself.
Yeah.
And he has been for years, and that's not a surprise. The other Cardinal he put on here was Adam Wainwright. And I'll go right there. The same logic, Pete. Who has thought Adam Wainwright has been an elite pitcher over the last 2 or 3 years? Nobody.
Right.
Not just me either. Nobody has thought this guy was an elite pitcher. That's another hole in this guy's logic.
Well, and it seems to me that this is somebody who hasn't done all of his research, because nobody even considers Adam Wainwright the ace of that staff. It would be one thing. It would be one thing if people were talking about that Adam Wainwright was the key to how the Cardinals performed this year, and that he's the one that the rest of the pitching staff looks to. No, that's not the case. Carlos Martinez firmly put his stamp on that team last year, and he is clearly the ace of that staff, and nobody doubts that. Honestly, I think that if he really wanted to be daring, he would have been one of the daring ones that he picked out was Jackie Bradley Jr., because Jackie Bradley Jr. is in the prime of his career. Like, that's going out there. That's taking somebody who still has years ahead of him and saying, yeah, he doesn't deserve the reputation that he has. That is I think far more ballsy than taking aim at Albert Pujols or Adam Wainwright.
Yeah, and I agree. And the other one on here that's kind of head scratching too is if you want to talk about overrated outfielders, he threw in Jose Bautista. And this year, guys, who thought in 2017 or even now that Jose Bautista is overrated? He may not have a job next year. How could he be overrated if baseball doesn't even give him a job?
He barely got a job last year.
Right. I mean, he signed late. Nobody was going to give him a 2-year deal.
Nope.
And Jay Bruce. Okay, Jay Bruce, maybe there's an argument there that he's overrated a little bit by media fans, right? But again, Jay Bruce is one of those guys. He doesn't have people lining up to sign him in the offseason, walk here. So, yeah, I think maybe this guy was handed a topic and given a challenge to write an article and tried his best. And I think he fell short.
I think you're right. This is probably one, if this truly is, I didn't look into that, but if this truly is his first article, then yeah, the editors gave it to him. And they said, all right, here you go.
Yeah, do the best you can.
Yep, this is what we want you to write. Yeah. Right? Because he's not Ken Rosenthal. He can't go to his editors and say, okay, this is the article that I want to write. They're not going to give him that kind of autonomy because he hasn't earned it. No, I agree. So, So anyway, that article. But I think the reposting of it was another thing too. Is like, and again, the reposting, I get it. These are fans ribbing other fans. It's just kind of thing that happens. We all can accept that. This is what we do. But the Bleacher Nation, which I haven't followed those guys until I think you put them on our Twitter following feed, which I actually enjoy a lot of their material. It's on there. I think they're pretty. I've had them on Twitter since we started this. So,
well, I haven't followed Twitter since recently anyway.
I know.
I left that up to you. But I actually, those guys are pretty funny. Yeah. But the whole best fans in baseball, the BFIB logo. I mean, come on, what pocket of fans in any fan base doesn't believe that they're the best fans in baseball? It's got to be everywhere. A player has come out and said, these are the best fans in baseball. All media during a broadcast said, these are the best fans in baseball. This, that. I mean, this is a media thing, just like the Cardinal way bullshit, which actually none of us Cardinal fans really care about. I mean, we don't. Nobody has an encyclopedia in our house, even as fans, that says the Cardinal way of doing shit. None of us think that. We don't believe that. We don't believe it at all.
There are a lot of them, though, in the Bloomington Normal area, and that's the only thing that.
Well, I don't. Evidently, I don't hang out with any of them, so I don't.
Well, no, of course you don't. You're in North Carolina.
Yeah, and I think the reason
I didn't hang out with them when I lived there for 11 years.
Outspoken Cardinal fans in that area is because they have to compete so much with the Cub fans and the White Sox fans.
Well, and that is and that's, I can imagine where some of this comes from. That's a DMZ right there through Central Illinois. You kind of get a split, and so it gets a little more heated in the region. But literally, the best fans in baseball is not. I'm going to somewhat speak for Cardinal fan nation here. This is not a thing that it's not a patch I wear. It's not a patch I think most of fans that at least that I know, and even guys I've followed on message boards and everything. This is not something that we put in our signature. This is not okay. It's just not. It's not a good thing it's not a good thing. Look, nobody wants to voluntarily put a target on your back. When you start saying stuff like that, you put a target on yourself, and inevitably at some point in time you're going to have a few down years. Maybe even a long down stretch. So why the hell would you even do that to yourself?
And this would be this is what I would categorize this under Ron's education on Twitter, right? That post title is intentionally written to garner clicks for two reasons. One, best fans in baseball, because he knows that it's going to end up catching Cardinals fans' eyes. And they're going to get pissed off and they're going to follow through and click on it. And two, the other thing in the article, and this was one that I addressed to you guys specifically before the show, was it was very misleading to put in the title that Yadi Molina tops the list of overrated players. There was no quantification of who was the most overrated. The only reason that he was the first one was because he went through them by position, and catcher is fielding position number one when you score a game.
Number two. Is it number two or number one?
You're right, because it's pitcher's one. But
then he had pitchers somewhere in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
He had pitchers down at the end.
Yeah. I don't think he wasn't quantifying who was the most overrated. He was just starting from the way that you go around the horn.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have no doubt that is it Michael who wrote that, or is it Brett? Okay, so he wrote the coverage of that article that was written, and yes, he added his own.
He added
his own spice to it, and yes, you're right, Pete. He got guys to click like me.
Yep.
And yeah, which I had actually already read that article earlier because somebody else had put it up.
So then to have it come back a second time, oh man!
Come back a second time, I'm like, it's just it evokes one of those eye rolling things. Like, oh my god, no! I mean, I get.
No,
it.
You didn't roll your eyes, man. You erupted.
I erupted when we retweeted it. Retreated, not retreated. Retweeted. I thought I was Elmer Fudd there for a second, but I was actually saying the word right. So anyway, so let's move past that. But I do want to talk on. I would talk about one thing because we talked about this before the show, what we're going to run through, but I blew right by it, and I was emotional about this yesterday. I'm kind of bad about it today. The whole Kyle Schwarber article. And it's reposting, and there's some guy that just couldn't let it go, right? And this is me getting involved in Twitter, which I probably should never do.
Here's why it was
the article.
Yeah, I know the article, and here's why it was why you saw it so many times in your feed, right? Jesse Rogers went down to Florida to see what it was that Kyle Schwarber was doing. And I have a feeling that it developed because right before the winter meetings, the Cubs posted some pictures of Kyle Schwarber looking thinner, like everybody. And he had posted that on his Instagram feed. And then the Cubs reposted it on Instagram and on Twitter. And I think everybody noticed that he looked far more svelte than he had in the past. And so my guess is that Jesse Rogers was already going down there to cover the winter meetings, and his editors said
Schwarber showed up there, by the way, real thin.
He did. He did. My guess is that it was already in the works, that the editors said to Jesse Rogers, hey, look at this. This is a potential story. Since you're going to be down in Florida anyway, once the winter meetings wrap, get in touch before the winter meetings wrap, but get in touch with Schwarber, see if he's going to be sticking around for another week. Set it up after the winter meetings wrap up. You go over to his home and you check out his workout, and then we'll run a story. We'll make it a feature. Okay. So I'm imagining that's what the background is.
Yeah.
So then while he's there, he's getting all of it on video. Because remember, Jesse Rogers isn't just writing for the website. He's also doing featured packages for ESPN Chicago and obviously then for ESPN National if the story is interesting enough.
Yep.
So he goes there, he gets the videos, he starts posting the videos of each of the segments of Schwarber's workout because it's Twitter and he's got it. And so he's trying to get in the news cycle. So what you saw was the preparation of the final package. So there were like 5 or 6 tweets about each of the various things that he's doing to increase his flexibility, to increase his reaction time, to make himself a better player. And then 3 or 4 days later, after it goes away, right, and it's fallen off the radar, then the package is put together and it's what goes on ESPN Chicago and it's what gets submitted to ESPN National to run as part of ESPN, Sports Center or whatever it is as a featured package, baseball tonight, whatever. And so then you end up seeing those videos again because they're part of a longer package and it gets put up again. So unfortunately what it was you saw the sausage being made. Had it come out as a single story, I don't think that it would have caught nearly as much attention, and it certainly wouldn't have annoyed you nearly as much if it was. This is what Kyle Schwarber is doing to prepare for the 2018 season. But because you saw it again and again and again, it's like, okay, enough already. I get it.
And I think the headline is what caught too, is because he said, I want to be an MVP.
Yeah. Look, here, guys. Here's the thing. Don't get me wrong.
And all that said, Ron, you're absolutely right. I would much rather see what he does. Don't tell us about it. Just do it.
Well, first of all, guys, I mean, listen, a couple points I want to make here. One, you're going to notice it when he shows up to spring training. Even if the story would have been run, everybody would have noticed his body transformation. And that's a story in itself, right? Like, wow, dude, what did you do in the offseason? So it's foolish of me to say, no, have him produce and then write a story about it. No, you're going to see him and you're going to be like, wow, dude, you look way different. People are going to want to know and they're going to want to talk about it. Understand that. Now, I will give him this. By the way, my annoyance is not directed at the player. I actually give him a ton of credit because he had a shitty year and he decided he was going to do something about it and never have a bad year like that again. Do everything he could to his body to hold up, to be a better defender in left field and to hold up better during the season. So I give him a ton of credit for actually doing something about it. We know so many players that don't do shit. They have a bad year and they don't do anything. Pablo Sandoval. Let's just go. We can stop right there, right? I mean, there's a ton of stories, but he actually did something about it. And so I give him a ton of credit for that. But if I was Kyle Schwarber, this is me, right? But if it was me, I'd be like, all right, save the hype about this until after we see what's going on in the season. We see how this new body is performing in the regular season. Then write about it. And I'll tell you all about what I did, but let's not do this before. Let me get out there. Let expectations be where they are. And let's not build this up because I tell you what, guys, I've already seen lines from Michael from Bleacher Nation. He's going to be a monster this year. He's going to be a monster this year was how he ended his coverage of that article. I'm like, God damn it, guys. Why do you have to do stuff like that to him? Seriously. Why? If he comes out and has a mediocre year, people are going to be pissed off.
Well, it's kind of like last year's Jason Hayward went down to Arizona and he bought a house and he's trying to change his swing, and then you see mediocre results and you don't see the results that you want to see. And there was a soundbite from Kyle Schwarber that said, everybody's focusing on the weight. That's just a part of what's happened. Because he's like, I'm working on my fielding, I'm working on my hitting.
He's working on agility and all kinds of things. I get it.
He's like, that's where I want to, make my improvements. I want to be a better outfielder and I want to be a better hitter. He could have just done the same thing that all these other guys do and say, I'll come down to spring training when I'm supposed to be there and I'll start working on this stuff. But
I don't think this day and age in this young man's game, this athlete's game, I don't think many people take the offseason off anymore. And so for anybody to cover a story on one guy like he's doing something that nobody else has ever done before, I think it's a little foolish for people to jump into that and romanticize about it. Like, oh my God, look what he's doing. Nobody's ever done that before.
That guy's working hard. It's like these guys are athletes.
Everybody who wants to be the best at their game, whether it's money motivated or just performance, aspire to perform at a certain level. There's so many athletes that do this every stinking off season. Right? I mean, so, my whole point is like, look, let the guy do it. Then I'm sure me, you, and every other baseball player that had a shitty year in 2018 will want to know what the hell did that guy do in the offseason to get himself back. And if they're setting expectations in Cub fans' minds again, like they were when he showed up for a handful of games in 2016 when he recovered from a shitty injury, if they think they're going to get that Kyle Schwarber for 162 games, I mean, don't set him up that way. My God. I mean, if he does, great, right? That's going to be what the hell will you guys do? You won't even be talking about Machado or Harper or anybody. I mean, if he actually performs at that level for 162 games, you guys save a lot of money and not even sign anybody like that.
It's 285 and 45 home runs with 115 to 120 RBIs.
You're not going to be dumping $40 million a year on Harper if he comes out and does that. That's for sure, right?
No, I think they still will.
Why would you need to?
I think they still would. Because then you move Hayward into center field.
Then they really will be the most hated team. Then they will be the most hated team. And then you'll be the BFIB tags will be on your team in 10 years.
No. We're still not. No.
Nobody because people will still be drunk out in the outfield and not
knowing what's going on
with their phones and their
That
hands.
is true.
Nobody calls Yankees fans the best fans in baseball.
They're
they
assholes.
do.
No, they don't. They don't even consider themselves the best fans in baseball.
I find that hard to believe. Let's call Chris. Let's get him on the line. I can't beep out in real time, so we're not going to do that. Pete, we have a list to go through. So
you know what? You opened us with a quote, an uncensored quote from Christmas Vacation. It's too late, man. Ship's already sailed.
Jitter's full. Anyway, guys, so Darvish Donaldson, we need to hit on. Well, actually, I skipped over a name. Very quickly.
One of the other overrated guys in baseball.
He was on that same list, Evan Longoria.
Yeah.
Who just got traded.
That's kind of one I don't know if I can argue that one or not because nobody really talks about Evan Longoria. Like rewind the clock 1 year ago. Who talked about Longoria? Well, it's not just that, but I mean, who thought he would compete for a AL MVP last year? I don't think any of us did, right? I mean, but anyway, make my point, guys. Were you surprised that Longoria, that the Giants actually made this deal and gave up what they gave up?
Stunned.
I am too.
Well, and this just shows how much better Tampa's front office is than Derek Jeter, because they actually got a return.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They did. They had a pretty snazzy return too.
Yeah.
But I'm equally as baffled as why the Giants just can't. I mean, they're almost like a Brett Favre of players, right? They just don't like. You should tear it down. Like you don't keep going like this.
Well,
here's what I think.
It's got to be better than Fat Panda.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Here's what I think. Here's what I imagine their thinking is. We're getting Bumgarner back healthy, or at least we're hoping we get Bumgarner back healthy, and we owe it to Buster Posey while he is still in his prime, while he is still arguably the best catcher in baseball, to try and make this happen before it's
first baseman.
Well, yeah, but I think that they feel that they owe it. Forget about the fans. I think they feel that they owe it to their stars to give it one last shot. And so that's why they're making it. I think that they're looking at it as last year was an anomaly. It was a fluke.
Well, I don't know, man.
With Bumgarner's injury and kind of a conflict. I'm not saying they're right, but I have a feeling that that's how they're looking at it is this was just a fluke. This was a one-off. With just a few moves around the margins, we need to add a legitimate outfielder who can provide an offensive threat. And, we improve ourselves at third base. We're right back in it. Do they think that they're going to compete with the Dodgers? No, but all they need to do is get into the playoffs. And then as we all know, it's a new season.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and how much has baseball changed since that second wild card came in, right? How many people hang on a little bit longer? I mean, look at the Phillies, right?
Look at last year.
Well, no, but go just look at the Phillies. Look at the Phillies for years. We all knew, guys, you need to break that thing down. And they held on for 2 or 3 years longer than what they should have. And they got practically nothing for their players. So yeah, I shake my head when I talk in this ball. It's just, can I tuck this back, guys? Is this okay? Damn it.
You missed.
Brian, I thought you were used to having balls in your face.
All right. So that's the Longoria thing. I'm actually surprised this happened to the Giants. I was hoping the Cardinals would be dealt in a package, not him by himself, but with a package of players. But it didn't happen. That's fine. Darvish, Where are you this week?
Well, actually, you know what? Why don't we go to Donaldson, because it seems like a cleaner transition from Longoria, right? You have one third base target for your team who's now gone.
Yeah,
I mean, if it doesn't sound like the Blue Jays are gonna trade Donaldson, it sounds like they're gonna try and compete, which I don't understand, but fine. They're gonna shoot for that second wild card also in the AL.
Yeah.
Who's left for you guys to target then at third base, or are you going to have to go into the season as it is and go with Jerko at third, or Carpenter if you're able to land a first baseman?
I think my fear is
do they shift their focus from improving at third and instead go after a Hosmer?
I think they go after a pitcher. I think if they've got the money, if they don't spend it on going after a third baseman, they try to get somebody else.
Jake Arrieta? I just want him to sign Arrieta just to watch Ron's head explode.
I'm not sure how I'd respond to that one. Look, guys,
that could be a 20-minute podcast of Ron just staring at the screen.
I agree with Elliott though. If there's not an upgrade on one of the corners, and certainly Hosmer is available, but look, guys, he's on the underrated list. So evidently, this guy knows more than any baseball people know. But I actually wouldn't mind them sign one more bat. If nothing else, it's for protection.
Well, and also if you sign Hosmer, you get his prestige value.
That's right, and then but that might raise real estate taxes. So I mean, who knows? But yeah, no, I Pete, I hear you loud and clear. Yes, there's a prestige value that is worldwide now, and
he may lead you to the promised land of the Catalina wine mixer.
Man, that's just, I don't know what I would have to go to get Boris on our show, just even briefly, just to give us more material, exclusive material that we could leak out to the world.
Wouldn't that be great?
Oh my God,
that would blow us up.
Everybody knows him. I would love it, but I would welcome an addition like that, because Hosmer is not going to cost him anything really. It's not going to cost him anything. It's going to cost him money.
Right.
It'll cost him a compensation pick at some point in time. But I wouldn't mind seeing something like that, because I think the guy could help. And with him and the addition of Zuna, you got a legitimate 3 and 4, no matter how you want to mix them up. So I would welcome that, but I don't see that as being likely. So I agree with Elliott that I think their focus will shift to bullpen and possibly the starting rotation. The starting rotation, and we talked about it last show, I believe, is that it's built on a little too much hope for my comfort zone. I think they're hoping and betting on things that will work, players that will be healthy, come back, that will perform, much like they bet on the lineup over the last 2 years that hasn't worked. I think we're at risk of going into looking at our rotation the same way. I feel.
Where do you feel more confident, the rotation or the bullpen?
That's.
I mean, who right now?
I really don't know, man. That's a tough one to ask. That's a tough one to answer.
As it stands, who's going to close out your games?
As it stands right now, they don't have a lockdown closer, so I can't. I think, Pete, we might have our answer in spring training if they're not able to lock anybody up. I hope they're still trying to look for a deal for Colome from Tampa Bay. That might be their only route out. Now they've been sniffing around Wade Davis, if you believe what you read, but I just don't.
He would make a ton of sense.
Them doing it. I don't see him doing it though. I mean, yeah, it does make a ton of sense, which is why I don't see him doing it. Thank you. You just answered it.
All right.
Okay,
so then we shift to you, Darvish.
You.
So you didn't hear this apparently.
It's all about you.
It is. It's all about you. He had a meeting he had a 3.5-hour meeting, all in English. I give him credit for that. A 3.5-hour meeting with the Cubs earlier this week, and then met with the Astros the next day. It sounds like there are a lot of teams doing their due diligence on him. But there was a report that came out this afternoon, and it was this guy with Barstool Sports, and his he claimed that Darvish had signed with the Cubs, and you, Darvish, actually responded by saying #fake news.
Oh, it was you Darvish that responded that way.
Yes. Among people, yeah.
It was a bunch of Chinese, and then it said hashtag fake news.
Well, except that it was Japanese, but yes.
The Japanese, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah,
right.
Michael Carl Sturck with Barstool Sports is the one. He said that he had sources who were good, and his source had gone 3 for 3 on Hayward, Contreras' rehab, and the Brandon Morrow signing. And this was the guy who told him that Yu Darvish had signed, and then like all hell broke loose on him, and he got a little bit embarrassed because it's hashtag fake news.
And I mean, and you got people like Bruce Levine and Heyman,
Dave Kaplan.
I mean, just all like, dude, you got to be kidding me here. And I mean, if I'm this guy, I am crawling in a corner and I am hiding until after the new year, and I'm not tweeting anything out.
Yeah, that was terribly embarrassing. So all that to say, where's you going? Nobody knows.
Still, no. 4 hours ago, you went to dinner with his friend John.
Yes, who is John?
That's where you is. I don't know, some guy, John.
Yeah, I saw that. Who the hell is John? And where the hell is Ron? All of a sudden, he's left us to run the ship on our own. Well, okay, in that case, we can just we can steer it down things that we want to talk about, like the best fans in baseball. I can't wait until Ron listens to the podcast back and he hears us talking about calling him one of the best fans in baseball, the B-Fab.
Oh man, I wouldn't put him in the group with that. So.
No, you're right, because he's a terrible fan.
No, but I don't know how you can feel that a source that you have that gives you something that big and be like, okay, so where are you finding, what is your source? Are you getting this from somebody in his camp? Are you getting this from somebody within the Cubs organization? Or are you just, hey, I want to try, I think this is the day that it's going to happen. I feel like it's going to happen. Let me get it out there. And then, say, well, yeah, first in the comment section or whatever he's trying to do. I would love I think that's totally irresponsible from this guy from Barstool Sports. And maybe he puts it back on his guy who's the source.
Well, obviously he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, to not even make an effort to verify, to get a second source. But he probably doesn't have a second source. He's got one guy, and that's it. Now, I just wonder how he's going to spin it if Darvish does actually end up signing with the Cubs.
And it's crazy now. And I'm looking at Twitter right now, and I see Ken Rosenthal, source, free agent, Yu Darvish and Cubs have agreed to a contract. This was 3 days ago.
3 days ago, they had just had the meeting.
I know. So what?
Wait, really? It was Ken Rosenthal?
Yes.
He's pretty credible, man.
He is.
No. Sorry, this is Ken _Rosenthal_.
It's that's the fake Ken Rosenthal. Maybe that's this guy's source.
That was Theo's. That was Theo's alias on Twitter, I think.
See, and I just got bamboozled right there.
Maybe that was Barstool Carl's source.
No kidding.
Or that guy from CBS.
Yeah. No, hey, there you go. It's Barstool Carl's. He can't tell the difference between the real Ken Rosenthal's Twitter account and the fake Ken Rosenthal. And so he saw that the real Ken Rosenthal reported that Brandon Morrow had signed with the Cubs. And then he saw that this guy 3 days ago said that the Cubs and Darvish. And he said, oh, I got a source. My guy knows he went 3 for 3. Idiot.
Yeah.
You feel better?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I don't
feel
like
you got something out there.
You know what? You take the transition. I'm going to go get another one.
A little bit of payback there, I take it. So he did it at the wrong time, but we might as well bring up another rumor that's going around here. So what's going on with Alex Cobb? Has the Cubs moved on from that?
I think they have. I think Alex Cobb is asking for too much money. I mean, he's
for who he is, right? I mean, for who he is, what he's going to do, yeah. What, 20 million a year? Is that
no? I think it's actually more than 20 million. I think he's actually looking for 25 million a year.
Yeah,
and the Cubs just aren't looking to get that kind of money. And the reason I say that is because the AAV for Yu Darvish has come down based on the market, and so I think that's why.
So you're not going to give Cobb $20+ million a year. I mean,
you're not going to give Cobb 20 million if you can get Darvish for 25.
Yeah, I totally agree, because you're getting a level of performance there, or perceived performance, right? That's going to be above and beyond, and at least an intimidation factor, and somebody that if John Lester were to go down, or well, hold on, he's not the ace anymore.
We don't know who the ace is,
right? Kyle,
we have no idea.
Right, but Yu Darvish is a conceivable ace for many teams around the league, and if your rotation for whatever reason wasn't clicking the way it needed to be, Yu Darvish is an ace for a lot of teams, and he could be for yours. And so, for 25 million, I agree with Pete. Do you commit to 20 million a year for a 3 or 4 starter? I mean, is Cobb really a 2? He's not an ace.
He's probably he's a 3, maybe a 2 if he reaches all his potential.
But definitely a solid 3, right? You bring him in, he's a solid 3. He's a Lance Lynn. He's a Lance Lynn, basically, is what he is, right?
He is.
Yeah. So you're not going to pay him ace money. And I'm sorry, guys, but $25 million a year is still ace money, in my opinion. I don't care what the hell David Price makes or.
Well, I think ultimately what brought Darvish onto the Cubs' radar is the fact that it's looking like his market is soft and that he might be able to be gotten for, say, a 4-year contract or a 4-year with a 5th-year option. And in that case, I think the Cubs would be willing to pay $25 million for him if they're only locked into that. But they're not going to go for a 6 or a 7-year contract for anybody, any pitcher. Yeah. They might go that for a position player, but for a pitcher, there are too many variables, especially for a starting pitcher to go that long.
Pete, if you look back, and we have to backtrack the history of starting pitchers, but teams that sign these guys for the long term you're talking about are teams that actually have like 0 pitching in their and on their staff, right? They have no aces. They have not much in the minor leagues. They consider being anywhere from 2 to 5. They just don't have it, and so they have to build around something.
And from what I understand, that always ends up being kind of the determining factor when it comes to signing starting pitchers is the extra years, right? Everybody kind of falls into the same range as far as what they're going to pay him. But if Arrieta gets
it's a length. That's always
it is. If Arrieta gets an offer from the Cubs, say for 6 years and $30 million, right? So $180 million. But then he gets an offer for say 7 years and 25, or even 7 years and say 28. He's going to take the 7 and 28 because it's 7 years. It's guaranteed money for a longer period of time, and that's the determining factor in those cases.
Yeah, and for some guys, it's position players. It might be more AAV that's on their radar than, but. Yeah. All right. So I threw in Alex Cobb while you took a break there. But we got to move on to something that's I think got all of us fired up, I think, before we hit the record button tonight. And that was there was an interview this week on ESPN Radio, Dan Le Batard's show, which I'm a huge fan of. Well, a huge fan of for like half an hour during my lunch break. But he interviewed Bob Manfred, and he's pretty fired up about South Florida and how baseball has treated South Florida. And so we listened to it before we hit the record button tonight, guys. It wasn't. It was uncomfortable, right? I mean, I was uncomfortable on my lunch break. I mean, I'm driving on the interstate. I'm like, wow, this is
You start to sweat a little bit.
There's moments of silence. I mean, there's moments of like quiet, like pause, like, Jesus, did you really ask him that?
Yeah, Manfred, but you know what? He is the commissioner of baseball, and he needs to answer questions like this. And I don't blame Dan Le Batard.
Totally agree.
As a fan and.
Well, he's a South Florida guy, and he's got
and he's probably hurt by what has happened to his team. That
clearly
they are a couple of pieces away from being a mainstay in baseball, and now they're not even starting from scratch. I mean, they are grounding the flour. They are trying to make flour. I mean, they don't. I mean, it's crazy what Jeter and the team or that Jeter is doing to this team.
And since you're bringing that up real quick, so SI Power Rankings came out. Miami's 30.
No kidding.
Just update you guys on that little fact right there.
Over under 35 wins this season.
Hold on, I think I have an ad playing. God damn it! It's Jennifer Aniston. Hold on, let me run it for a minute. She's not ugly, so hold on. All right, it's over.
What?
Pop up ad, guys. I'm sorry.
Here's what I would say. I give Le Batard credit, right? Because it's not like he's a nobody who's doing this to make his name.
No,
no. It's not in his interests to burn bridges with the commissioner of baseball. It would very much be in his
the Marlins for that matter.
It would be very much in his interests to softball this. Ask Manfred the question one time, and when Manfred avoids it, let it go. He doesn't do that in the interview. He stays after him. A lot of credit. He may never be able to get.
Well, and he pretty much calls Manfred a liar.
Yeah, no, he does.
He's like, you were lying to me.
30 seconds in.
Yeah.
30 seconds in.
He absolutely does.
Pretty much said, we started on a lie. We started on a lie.
And he pretty much all but calls him a liar.
I would be surprised if Rob Manfred ever appears on his show again.
I'm sure Le Batard's going to be torn up about that.
Well, I know, but still, that's not what a nationally syndicated radio host does when they're playing it safe. So credit to him for being willing to actually be a journalist.
Yep, totally agree.
The greatest thing about that interview is he has the entire fan base of South Florida lined up right behind him.
Yeah. And just to clarify, and Ron, I know that you said that you weren't aware of this, but the Miami Herald ran a follow-up article in today's paper covering that, but also putting it in context, right? So Le Batard puts him on the spot about, whether or not they knew about Operation Wolverine, which was Derek Jeter's his plan to purchase them. He says to him, "Did you know? Right? Did you?
Is that code for slashing, Elliott?
Yes.
Is that the so you were making? Okay, just one. Right, got it.
But he asked Manfred flat out, "Did you know of and did you approve of this plan to slash the Marlins payroll and gut the team?" And Manfred says, "We don't do that." And in the Miami Herald article, it says 2 people directly involved in the sales process said that Jeter and Sherman were required to tell other owners their intentions with payroll during the approval process, and that they informed the other owners that payroll would be cut from $115 million to the $85 to $90 million range.
So who did they assume was going to be traded? I mean,
especially
$140 million.
No. So it was 115 was what the payroll was assumed to be going into this year. But if they had kept last year's team, then yes, it would have been 140 million. So not only was the assumption going into this that the Marlins were going to have to cut $25 million in payroll, obviously by getting rid of Giancarlo Stanton, but that they had plans, the Jeter Sherman group had plans to cut it another $30 million beyond that in order to what? And what it says, a source directly involved in the Marlins sales process, after hearing the Le Batard interview, said via text, commissioner said was not aware of plan to slash payroll. Absolutely not true. They requested and received operating plans from all bidders. Project Wolverine called on his group to reduce payroll to $85 million. This was vetted and approved by Major League Baseball prior to approval by MLB. Every investor and non-investor has the Wolverine financial plan of slashing payroll to $85 million widely circulated. So they did know. And Le Batard calling him a liar was not out of bounds because he wasn't being truthful.
And it was widely known.
I think anybody, you guys, we listened to it tonight, right? Sorry, I mean, but if listened to it live the other day, we all knew that he was lying as soon as he answered the first question or tried to answer the first question, and Le Batard called him out for it, and it was pretty obvious. I mean, it's uncomfortable, but it was truthful that we started off on a lie on this whole call.
And you look further at it, right? Le Batard called Le Batard called Manfred out on that he cared more about the $1.2 billion price tag instead of the Marlins fans. The other thing, though, I mean, it not only has to be vetted by the commissioner's office and then moved on, but it also has to be approved by the owners, right? And it says in Manfred's defense, there's no evidence that other owners were informed of specific players that the Marlins intended to trade. Well, I'm sorry, if you got $140 million projected payroll and you're going to go down to $85 million, it's pretty easy to determine who on that roster is going out the door.
Yes.
D. Gordon, Giancarlo Stanton.
Giancarlo Stanton first and foremost. You know,
Marcell Ozuna or Christian Yelich, one of those two. I mean, it was
Yelich isn't going to be on that team by the end of the season.
No. So gee, I wonder why the other owners approved the sale. And two, I wonder why the market and the returns for what they got for Giancarlo Stanton and D. Gordon and Marcell Ozuna were widely regarded as terrible returns. Yeah, of course the owners approved this sale. Every owner saw the opportunity to rebuild their team.
They were all doing this
on the Marlins back,
and get 1/29th of $1.2 billion. Every single owner, of course, they approved that plan.
No, there's no disputing that whatsoever, Pete. Absolutely. But let me ask you guys this. So Florida has always been home to spring training, at least half of spring training, right? The other half is in Arizona.
Right.
Let me ask you guys this, honestly. The performance and the attendance and the controversy that surrounded Miami, which were formerly Florida Marlins, but they've always been in Miami, and then Tampa Bay since 1998. Does Florida, and I don't mean this at the people that live down there or South Florida, but does Florida deserve a baseball franchise? In your opinion, I mean,
the people of Florida do.
I'm not talking about the people. I'm not talking about the people. Does the market down there that's willing to support it, or have they been given an unfair shake given stadium situations?
Oh yeah,
the fact owners that win and then rip it down immediately.
Well, Jeffrey Lurie is widely regarded as one of the worst men to ever own a baseball team.
Well, what about Wayne Huizenga before him? I mean, he was just bad, right?
Huizenga too.
Yeah.
Well, and Huizenga saw it as Huizenga approached it as owning a business. The same thing that Sam Zell did when he owned the Cubs, right? He saw it as every time that they won the World Series was an opportunity for him to increase his profit, right? Because they knew that more people were going to buy tickets and everything. He got additional money for the World Series appearance. So then if you slash your expenses while the revenue is still up, you've increased your profit in the short term. Wayne Huizenga was acting as a businessman. He wasn't acting as a good owner. It was the same thing with Sam Zell when he owned the Cubs. The Cubs were under the mandate before the team was sold, and this is widely known. Before the team was sold, in what was it, 2011?
Yeah.
They were under the mandate to acquire free agents to try and make a push for the World Series so that the team was more attractive to bidders.
To potential buyers.
To potential buyers. Because they thought that anybody who was going to buy the Cubs did not want to buy a team that needed to be rebuilt. They would want to buy a team that was in contention. And what was the first thing that the Ricketts did? Well, not the first thing, because the first thing they did is they actually watched the team for a year, and then they tore it apart and identified that this team could not move forward the way that it was with stupid contracts like Alfonso Soriano et al.
2010.
Soriano?
I think it was 2010.
You're right.
Soriano? How did Pinella pronounce it? Soriano?
Was that it?
Soriano. That's what it was.
That's right.
But here's another thing, though, is that the people down in Miami are fitting the bill, $500 million
for that stadium
in taxes for that stadium. If you are a $1 billion owner, there is no freaking reason that you should have the people of that city paying the taxes to pay for that building.
Forget that city. Any city.
Any city. Any sport, anywhere.
I think
these bastards have the money.
I think that there are a lot of people, who are unaware, for example, that Jerry Reinsdorf paid this much money. And for those of you who are listening, it's a big zero. Paid $0 to build, what is it now? Guaranteed rate stadium.
Guaranteed rate field.
Because there was a it was entirely handled through the state, and actually the state owns the field. The White Sox don't. Why? Jerry Reinsdorf is one of the richest men in the country. He can't build a stadium? Really? Are you kidding me?
Nope.
And why would you not? I mean, you think about it. If you own that asset, you're able to generate and reap more all revenue. The profits from that asset. Yeah. But if you know that your team's terrible,
your answer is really simple in this case, dude. It's Chicago and Illinois politics. Yeah. Just look. George Lucas was willing to pay for a whole museum of contemporary art.
Yeah, on Northerly Island.
No, not on Northerly Island.
Was it Northerly Island?
No, it was a parking lot next to Soldier Field.
Auxiliary
parking lot. So you didn't want to displace the tailgaters.
Poor tailgaters that aren't going to show up next week against the Browns.
Right. No, if they're smart,
nobody will be there.
No, I hope they don't.
Smart, they won't. And then you turn it around and you look at the north side. The Ricketts were forced to, and to their credit, they did. The Ricketts were forced to put all their own money into all of the renovations that are happening at Wrigley Field. But good for the Ricketts.
But it's paid off. I mean, it's paid off.
Paying off, and they're going to reap all the profits from all the money that they are invested.
They are making the north side like a family destination now. I mean, by buying up the land and putting up the hotel. I mean, they have an ice skate rink there. I mean, this is a 365 day a year place to go visit.
Now, the one thing that they're missing,
guys, this podcast it's not a Chicago love fest. Let's just move on.
Yeah. No. Because here's where I'm going to criticize them.
Damn it!
If they really wanted to take off, what they need to do is they need to install a deep dish pizza food mall, so that fans of pizza like Chris have a place to go to learn what real delicious pizza tastes like.
You've just what you've basically just done is load my voicemail.
You just lit the fuse there, Pete.
I know. Hashtag trolling Chris and all of New York City.
He actually purposely and maliciously stepped on a landmine, or not even a landmine, just a Claymore mine. He saw the wire and he just voluntarily stepped on it. Yeah, he kicked it defiantly. And then shook his fist at New York and their cardboard pizza, as Elliott puts it.
That's right.
So now actually the conversation about the Marlins isn't done, because it didn't. It ended with the Le Batard Manfred phone call. And Ron, you said
there's a town hall meeting.
There was a town hall with Derek Jeter earlier in the week, and oh my God, it was high comedy.
Marlin Man. All I heard was Marlin Man showed up.
Marlin Man not only did Marlin Man show up, when he addressed Derek Jeter, he said, "Do you know who I am?"
I've heard about you. As I've heard the responses, I've heard about you.
Yeah, I've heard of you. Yeah, that's right.
Who doesn't know about Marlin Man?
When asked why he traded Ozuna, Jeter wouldn't say. He said that Hill would address it when he has the opportunity. Hill wasn't at the podium. So he deferred it to somebody who wasn't there. He asked fans to be patient. One older man told him he didn't have that much time. There was a fan crying at the mic while talking to Jeter about Stanton and Ichiro being gone. Jeter said, "I can't sit here and say who's going to be playing for the Marlins in 2018. He can't say who's going to be playing for him." And then my favorite, and I give me just a second because I need to find it. Did you hear about the comparison to a Camaro?
You either posted something about this.
So there's a Marlins fan. He said, "It's like I signed a lease on a Camaro, and come Monday they give me keys to a Volt, and the dealer says, 'Don't worry, it'll run like a Camaro in 3 years.'" And Jeter says, Jeter's response was, "The Camaro wasn't working." The fan says, "The Camaro had a flat tire away from contending." So I love that. Like, they absolutely went after Jeter, and Jeter had no answers. And I tell you, I don't know that I have seen anybody destroy their reputation this quickly.
No, you're absolutely right. And the fact, Pete, he screwed up in this instance, but he also didn't show up at the winter meetings, right? He didn't even show up. And most owners do. I mean,
I think we didn't talk about this last week. You don't see deals like the Braves-Dodgers deal that went down last week develop on text messaging. That's something that has to happen face to face, because you have to start to put together the framework of that and say, look, these are our goals. We've worked together before. I know what you're facing in Atlanta, having to rebuild that franchise after everything that happened. We're looking, how can we put together a deal that's going to help both of our teams? Derek Jeter wasn't there to have those conversations, and that's why he got a terrible return on the Giancarlo Stanton trade. That's why he got a terrible return on the Marcell Ozuna trade. That's why he got a terrible return on D. Gordon, and that's why he's going to get a terrible return on Christian Yelich, because he hasn't developed those relationships, because he's Derek Jeter.
Do you think he's at the winter meetings next year?
Well, his problem, Pete, is he can't grin his way out of this one. I mean, he can't flash a cute smile and work his way out of it. This is a different game to him. He can't. There's no flip to home plate that gets out Jason Giambi because he didn't slide. Like there's no slick move like this. There's nothing like this. I mean, this is a whole different game for him. He doesn't get it yet. He thinks he knows what he's doing, but clearly we've seen it. And you're absolutely right, Pete. He's got very little in return for a lot of talent.
Well, and to add on top of that, he no longer has the media covering for him.
No, right? He does not. They're actually on the other side. I mean, they're
roasting him.
They're roasting him, right? But that was not the case when he was a player, right? I mean, how much you heard that him. You heard that Derek Jeter was popular with the ladies.
Well, you heard that from George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner, the only negative press he got was George was like, if he just focused on being a baseball player rather than his nightlife, he'd be a, whatever. But that came and went quick.
Correct. But it's gotten out subsequently that he was out every night chasing tail. But that was covered up by the media, and that's not happening now.
No.
Well,
and he's not used to that.
Finding out what the difference is between being a baseball player and being an owner, because now you're accountable for everything that you do.
Yep, that's right.
Your player, you can have a bad night. If you're an owner and you make a bad deal, lasts for a hell of a lot longer.
You're going to be under the microscope.
Yeah. And he has compounded it not only by being an owner, but also by being the head of baseball operations.
Well, and by being an aloof owner. I mean, quite honestly, like having that aura of aloof superiority is going to cost him.
Well, and it's not just that he's an aloof owner; it's that he's being an aloof baseball executive. He's the guy who's making.
He's being irresponsible because he is not getting returns for. Okay, fine. You're going to cut the payroll. You guys don't have the money, but get something in return for the assets that you have. And he's not doing that.
No, he's not.
I think that's the biggest problem that the fans have. If they were getting some number one prospects out of these trades, I think there's a different storyline here. But he's not. He's getting garbage. And nothing against these baseball players. This is not their fault. This is,
but to your point, Elliott. I mean, they should have got a hell of a lot more for what they gave up. I mean, one of the best offenses, honestly, in the National League last year.
Yeah,
and they've torn it down, and
to the studs.
He's got nothing. I mean, I don't know how. If this happened to my team, guys, I would shut this podcast down. I would shut it all down and blow it up.
And see, this goes back to the Levitard interview, right? The reason that he was unable to get a return is because everybody knew that he wasn't in it to improve his team. He was in it to save money for the rest of the ownership group. That's why they were making those deals. And everybody else knew it. That was the priority. Cut payroll. Doesn't matter what you get back, cut the payroll. So he couldn't take on a bad contract in order to get a better return, which is exactly what happened with the Dodgers and the Braves. Both of them took on bad contracts in order to change their situation. Yeah. He couldn't do that because he can't take on a bad contract, because even if he releases somebody, he still owes them the money. He can't eat that. He can't afford to have that happen. And so then he's not going to get any good prospects.
So then your only motivation, which is funny because you use the term investors, which is it's absolutely true, right? But investors, you would think that most of them think long term. And in baseball, when you buy a franchise, you really have to think about it that way. It's not going to be an immediate thing. And to think about it short term is like, damn, Elliott, I mean, how many times we lived through this in our life that short quarterly, short-term thinking is like, how well does that work out?
Yeah,
and we've seen it in our professional life. Terrible. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. It never works. It's never worked anywhere I've ever been. So I'm sure it doesn't work in baseball either. I mean, if you're thinking long term, well, obviously they're not. So we don't have to go there.
And I gotta think with the Cardinals farm system that they probably had the best offer again this offseason to land Stanton, and because of payroll, because he would have been having to pay a little more for probably these prospects. He probably said, "No, I'm gonna go with somebody who's cheaper," or the relationship with the Yankees saying,
"No, hey, I really think that Stanton had me. I've had more time to think about this, guys. I mean, like, I could be sitting here butthurt that he denied St. Louis, but you think about Stanton's situation. He has been in a losing situation his whole career. He's never been on a winning team that's been over 500.
Right. Don't blame him. He wants
why
to win.
not? Why not target one of the 4 teams that made it to the LCS? I can't blame him for that. I would never blame him for that. No, not at all. So, yeah, more power to him. Now, he said the Yankees were his target all along, but I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I think if the Dodgers would have been in a better financial situation to deal with him, or they had the prospects or whatever to deal for him, I think that would have been likely, but he's a Yankee. Maybe he always wanted that, and that's fine. That's fine. I have nothing else to say about it. I mean, I have no hard feelings. I won't hold it against him. I mean, Jeter and company threw this at his face within a matter of weeks, and can't make the guy decide where he's going to play for the next 10 years.
No, you can't.
So, not butthurt. Now, if he went at the Cubs, I'd been all over his ass. So, once again, I've positioned myself to win this argument from both angles. It's a very Ron way of doing stuff.
Would you have been butthurt if he had ended up in LA?
No, I wouldn't care.
No, just as long as it's not the Cubs.
Yep, Cubs, I'd have been all over his ass.
At least you're consistent.
Yep, pretty proud of
it.
Good. I'm not titling that episode whatever you texted. So and I control the
Wait, what do you mean? It's not specific to anybody in particular.
BFIB?
Yeah. BFIB. It could be any team. Any team's fans could call themselves the best fans in baseball.
All right, guys. So what are our holiday plans? I'm moving on. I'm not getting into that conversation. Holiday plans. Guys, what are you doing?
I have the boy this weekend, and then got a couple days off. I'm going to drive down to Indianapolis and hang out with my friend and her family for the day. I'll actually spend Christmas Day with my dad and my aunt and uncle, and then I'm just going to enjoy the time off until next week when I've got the boy for 5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, not 5 weeks. Not 5 weeks. Sorry, 5 days.
Wow.
I've got him for 5 days straight. So that's going to be nice. But other than that, yeah, I'll be just sticking around the area.
All right,
excellent.
Elliott.
Spending. We're going to be at my parents' until Tuesday. So we've got a few days off, and then I'm actually still on vacation until the 2nd. So I was forced to use some of my vacation days because I can't carry over all the vacation days that I still had in the bank. So, which I'm totally okay with. I mean, I'll probably monitor some emails and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we'll spend some time with the parents, and then we'll head back up to Milwaukee and do some New Year's stuff and spend some. We got some friends coming up, and it'd be great. I mean, Christmas around here is pretty crazy. I've got a pretty big family, about 45 of us. So it's pretty nuts, but I love it. It's awesome between all my brothers and the nephews and the nieces, and it's great. So
yeah. Is your brother still a chef? The one that
yes, he actually lives with me still. Or lives with me now. So the restaurant that he was working at,
he lived with me the whole time. You didn't see him? He was always there.
Yeah. So he was running the Naperville he works at Carrabba's. He was running the Naperville Carrabba's, and they closed it about 6 weeks after he got there. And during those 6 weeks, they had the best 6 weeks of like staff and kitchen and stuff. Like it was run well. So they said, hey, we're going to move you to wherever store you want that we have open. And this is about a year after I moved to Milwaukee. He's like, you got anything open in Wisconsin? And they said, yeah. And it's seriously like 2 miles from where I live. So I'm helping him out for a little while. He lives with us. So
that's cool. So he was the head chef at Reality Bites, right? And that was the one in Bloomington. Yeah.
Yep. And then he got on with the Outback Group and has been at Carrabba's for the last few years, and he loves it there. And he's got a great staff. And then I've got 2 other brothers as well. So I've got one still in Bloomington that works for State Farm. He's got the 4 kids, and
he's at the farm, man. He's there.
Yep.
You're in the farm.
You're at the farm.
You're there.
You're pretty golden. Usually the people at the farm don't want to leave because of the
No, it's just it's really good. Anyway, so my plans are I'm not doing anything over the holiday. I'm staying here, but I am going back to get the older one, and I'm going to bring him back here in 2 days.
Are you driving or are you flying up there?
I was going to fly up. I'm probably flying back, but I'm going to meet my mother's going to bring him part way.
Oh, you guys meet in Nashville, Ohio. You go north.
Dayton. Yeah, I go a little bit north. Yeah, I live north of Charlotte, so north route. North route.
Well, yeah, because.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that the few times that I used to go back to Bloomington, I would go through Nashville, and then somebody said, "Oh no, you
went through Nashville."
Yeah, they're like, you got to go through Virginia or Kentucky or whatever.
It's Virginia. I go through Virginia, better. West Virginia, Ohio, and that's the route I take. It's quicker.
Yeah, well, it's because you don't have to deal with all that mountain bull crap.
No, you still go through the mountains. $6 of tolls. $6 tolls. It's not as bad as Chicago, where Pete lives, but we still have tolls in the mountains. Got to pay for that moonshine.
That's right.
Yep. All right, guys. I wish you all the best for the holiday season. And before we sign off here, we have to give each other gifts. I mean, wishes for our teams going into the next year. So, Pete, I see your mind's churning there. So, do you want to go ahead and kick this off? I mean, we did this last year. We did this last year, and I wished one of your players Tommy John surgery, which is really really low. I mean, it's really a bad thing to wish.
That is. That's not good.
It was a dick move. I admit that.
You know what? I'm glad that you were unable to follow through on your.
Well, because it backfired on me because Alex Reyes actually ended up with it. So I think I gifted myself.
It's funny.
I probably won't do that again.
It's funny. I was thinking about this all day before we even discussed it as part of the show, because I just kind of I felt that it was appropriate. So I actually have a leg up on you in that I've been thinking about this for a while. Ron, what I want
to just get it over with.
No, hell no. You gave me the spotlight. I'm going to hog it. For Christmas, Ron, what I give you as a Cardinals fan, as one of the best fans in baseball, my wish for you is that your team signs a legitimate closer, and that you add that one other middle of the order bat so that this year can be far more interesting from a Cubs Cardinals standpoint than last year was. Because even though it was close last year, it never felt nearly as competitive or as fiery as it could have been. Mm-hmm. And so that's my wish to you, is in the interests of a more compelling season and a more compelling podcast. I hope your team improves significantly in the coming weeks so that we get off hot right at the beginning of the year. and that this becomes a very interesting season to watch. For you, Elliott, my gift to you, or my wish for you in the new year and at Christmas, is that
isn't this kind of self-serving? Because this is like giving each other.
Hey! Wait, you're undercutting me, Elliott. Come on now, Elliott. My wish to you is that the Cubs make it back to the NLCS for the 4th year in a row. How's that?
I love it. All right, Ron. I'll go next.
Right.
So my gift to you is that I would love for the Cardinals to start Yadi or Molina more than Carson Kelly next year. And
that was overrated.
and I would love to see Yadi at least once walk off the field throwing up again, because that was amazing last year.
What was the highlight of the year for you, Elliott? Was it Yadi throwing up on the field, or was it a baseball sticking to his vest?
Oh, behind his vest?
Yeah.
Oh, man,
no, not behind his vest. On
in
his
the front. Like
That's
on
right.
his
It stuck to his vest.
And that had a huge outcome in that game, too. Oh, man. I got to say throwing up, because I've never seen that. So I thought that was amazing. And I know concussions are funny, but yes. More Yadi starts, less Carson Kelly
Concussions
starts.
are funny in NFL, not in baseball. All right.
And to you, Pete, my gift to you will be a second World Series appearance in the last 2 years.
Just an appearance, man. I mean, just an appearance. Just short of
saying that I want to win the World Series again would be kind of dickish, but
that's presumptuous. I agree. That's presumptuous. You got to.
You don't want to set yourself up for that.
That's right. You just got to get there, right?
Yeah.
Just like
and a stocking stuffer would be a Yu Darvish signing in the next 2 days.
Not going to happen. If they don't sign, if players don't sign tomorrow, they're not signing until next week.
All right, guys.
I'll go out on a limb and say that right now.
All right, guys. So my
wait a minute. Are you going to make us share gifts? Are you going to make the two of us share a gift?
Okay, fine. I'll split them up.
You're an ass.
I'll split them up. I can come up with two separate ones. Start with Elliott, right? Elliott, my hope for you and other Cub fans is that this hype about Kyle Schwarber's offseason workout actually works out, because he's a player that's really, even as an opposing fan, it's not easy to not like what he's doing right now, right? It's not easy to not root for a guy who's willing to do something that we see a lot of other baseball players not do. So I hope Kyle Schwarber actually establishes himself as a legitimate left fielder, capable, and can hold his own. Do I wish he's an MVP? Absolutely not. But I hope he's good enough where he sticks. That's my gift to you. Pete.
Yeah, buddy.
My gift to you is that they bring back my favorite, my flat bill, my beard, because I'm going to be lost next year not being able to be pissed off at this guy. I hope the Cubs say, Jesus, we really need another solid starter. Let's bring back Jake.
That's a really selfish gift.
I'm handing Jake over to you.
That's a really selfish gift.
How is that a selfish gift?
Because you want him back so you can hate him. My gift was legitimate from the heart. I want you guys to be better next year. I want this rivalry to get.
How will you not be better with Jake in the rotation?
Really? That's gonna require another episode.
Having Jake in the rotation.
I was trying to be nice on that one, man.
On Bryce Harper next year.
No, I was definitely not going to go there. That's next year. which I will definitely not be gifting either of you assholes.
That's okay. By the time we get to our Christmas episode, my hope is that he's already signed with the Cubs.
Who, Arrieta? I hope so too.
Right? No, Harper. But yeah, by next year's Christmas episode, I hope that Arrieta signed with the Cubs. What?
All right, fine. Maybe you sign Jason Worth too. All right, guys.
Why not?
Why not? Maybe Moises will come back.
Oh, maybe.
Hey, Rafi Palmeiro's making a comeback. Why not? Why not welcome Moises back?
Wasn't Manny Ramirez making a comeback last year too?
Yes,
yeah, like in Guam.
He stopped being the hitting instructor for the Cubs, and he decided to give it another shot.
Hey, I see it worked out. This, Ron. The Yadi Molina Javi Baez combination in the World Baseball Classic. Still, that was pretty awesome.
That was a highlight of the 2017 season.
Yep. Totally agree. All right, guys. Been fun. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday.
You too.
I don't know if we'll be back a week from tonight or not, but we'll kind of play that by ear. I don't know if there'll be enough to talk about. I think baseball will be pretty silent.
Yeah, I agree.
Over the next year, so might not be much to discuss.
So what do you say? We give our followers fair warning. The likelihood of us doing a podcast next week probably pretty low, unless there's some.
I don't know. You know what, Pete? I've got your mic out here, and my son's going to be here. He might want to get on. So this might be me and him. Might just have to do a private video. You know, he wants to sit in front of the mic. I mean, one of his aspirations is you know my son, right?
Yes.
He's got a condition where he's not going to be an athlete, but his part of his interest is being in baseball as broadcasting or something like that. So I might have to. Me and him, we might have to put on somewhat of a show next week. He's looking forward to it. So are you willing to let him use your mic? Your dedicated
mic. It's not my mic, man. You paid for it. It's yours. Hey, are you off all next week?
Yeah.
So conceivably, we could do a show during the day. It doesn't have to be at night.
That's right.
This is true.
We can do a quick show. Maybe we should. We'll play it by ear. We won't commit to it now because I know we have family things going on, and so
I'll be back in Wisconsin. My son's at daycare next Thursday.
Oh damn! All right.
So, if you follow us on, really, you should be following us, particularly on Twitter. If you can't figure out who's tweeting, that's part of the entertainment, is trying to figure out which of the three of us is in control of Twitter at any given moment.
It's really not hard.
It's really not hard to tell when it's Ron, because you can feel the anger coming through. Ron hasn't adjusted to the Twitterverse yet. He still takes things a little personally.
I treat it like a chat.
He does. So if you're not, really, I encourage you, follow us on Twitter at Team Arrivals Pod. We're also on Instagram at Team Arrivals Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. Just go ahead and search for Team Arrivals Podcast, and the page will pop right up there for you. Online, teamarrivalspodcast.com. That's where that's your one-stop shop for everything. Links to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Links to the videos, links to the podcasts, everything is there. And you can also contact us by email if you want to use that antiquated method of communication at the show at teamarrivalspodcast.com. And then obviously you're already listening to us through one of the avenues, whether it's iTunes or SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, or all new in the last couple of weeks, Spotify. So we know that you're listening to us, and really it's not the importance of you listening to us on those. It's the likes, the rates, the reviews, and most importantly, sharing it with your friends, your family, your acquaintances. Now during the holidays, you've got time. You're going to be talking to people, sitting around the table, watching the kids opening the gifts. Just turn to them and say, "Hey, you like baseball, right? You should listen to Ron, Pete, and Elliott, because they got something going on there. Look, you can be a hipster." Dude, I was listening to Team Arrivals podcast before they were good. So there you have it.
Right. And we'll get there eventually.
What, to good or more listeners?
Just good.
Good? Okay. That's the aspiration. That's the gift. That's the gift I give to all of us, that at some point in 2018 we'll be good.
I think we're pretty damn good right now, to be honest with you. All right, gentlemen. Best wishes to you and your family.
You too.
I have a feeling we might scrounge up an episode next week, hopefully. But guys, have a fun week. I'm gonna have a fun week. Everybody else, we'll talk to you next week. Love you all. Bye. Goddamn eardrums out like I did mine.
No.
Nope. Good.
Okay, it's just me then.
Hey, so I didn't watch the Star Wars spoiler cast.
Hang on. Stop broadcasting, Ron.
From last week.
Nope. All right. Really, bye, YouTube land. Everybody wave.
See ya. You got to say something to get the camera to switch to you. Oh, wait.
Sparkle
Stop looking at Elliott. I want to say goodbye.
Hey, it's Ron. Bye. Bye.
Stop stealing my focus.
Happy birthday.
What the hell was that? All right. Bye. Yeah, we're done.